Hello, welcome back. It's Art of Cycling, and I'm Greg Leach, and I appreciate you being here to watch. Of course, we're still with the Tour de France. And so we're doing the intermediate sprint today. Well, put my own rule here on trying. Well, there we go, I got it. Oftentimes it's best to write the word and then draw the box around it. But I made it work. Yes, looks a little weird, but so it goes. So the sprint is sponsored by Skoda. I've always believed it to be I think Czech, but certainly Slavic car manufacturer. And I think they may be the ones who changed the colors. I don't know quite where this minty green and dark forest green came from. What I'm talking about will become obvious soon. So the intermediate sprint, I feel like I've talked about it before, but the green jersey is awarded to this usually sprinter, although this year the guy sitting in second place is not a sprinter, but it usually goes to the sprinters. It was created with them in mind. And the way it's won is at both the finish line and during the intermediate sprint, which usually comes about halfway through the stage. Mountain stages, sometimes they'll throw it in right before the mountains start. Again, as a nod to the sprinters. But here's the dilemma they're having, and I think it goes to one stage that was much more of not a traditional sprint stage, into the Mur de Bretagne. It popped up to my brain. So it was a climb at the end, and that was taken out by Pogacar, and he got the 50 points. So there's 20 points at the sprint point and 50 points at the finish line on sprint stages. The intermediate sprint is always 20 points, but the amount of points at the finish changes depending on the terrain. So that's why that one getting rated the way it was kind of skewed things. So, as I say, the guy leading the tour right now, Pogacar, is sitting in second place in this competition. And so not only does he have the yellow jersey, he almost has the green jersey. And then because he's been winning atop the mountains, he also has the polka dot jersey. This next to him is the guy who won it last year, and Eritrea's favorite son. And he was the first, I think, African, not even black African, although there's some conversation about Chris Froome actually was born in Africa. So we can definitely say the first black African to ever win a leader's jersey in the Tour, because he won this green jersey last year, but just hasn't found the form this year, much to my and many others' disappointment. And this is part of what's happened to him every single time. So Milan has, and actually Phil Liggett and Bob were talking that they're convinced it is, but every single time there's a sprint, now that even today there's a breakaway, so they're not sprinting for the maximum 20 points, but a reduction in points. So I think he's going for 15 or 13 points right now, or just got 13 points. So this is done from the helicopter shot. And they've just gone over the line, which is down here, and this is the gantry, or I'm not quite sure where that word comes from. Just trying to figure out the line of these hash marks. Here we'll call it continuing his streak. Because what I was about to say is he has won a couple times. There's not been a breakaway, and he's won the intermediate sprint. But he has always won the sprint from the group he's in. So at the intermediate sprint. Now at the finish line, where the maximum points are given out, where he's been up there. Oh, I don't know how he did when Jasper won. Oh, he wasn't even in the frame because he had gotten caught behind the split. So the sprints he was able to contest, he won 1 out of 3. The other 2 going to the European champion, Tim Malier. Malier should be figured into but I don't know what his point count is offhand. For those who love stats, I recommend procyclingstats.com. That's where I go to verify times and those kind of things. Decided I put his other label in here on his buttocks. Here, we might as well give Gurmai the same honor. So yeah, branding is quite the thing in the tour, not unlike NASCAR, with finding places of sponsors to help pay for the team, of course. And then the sponsors are looking for opportunities to display their name. So just like in NASCAR with sponsorship deals that involve how big your name is and where it's placed. So it is with a cycling kit as well. So title sponsor, Lidl Trek, that's their little Lidl logo. And Intermarché, coincidentally, both grocery stores. And Intermarché has had all sorts of permutations of their name. Wanty is their secondary sponsor. Just as Lidl Trek, their secondary sponsor is the bike company Trek. And And of course, these leaders' jerseys have their own sponsors too. So I'm just working through, yeah, that should be all of the warm color. Yep. Sorry, got a sneeze coming. Maybe. Darn. So like I say, this is going to be quite minty. Let me get a little more water. You ultimately don't know until you put it down on the paper, right? So of course, since this is the intermediate sprint, the gantry is marked with the colors of the sprinter's colors, the sprint jersey's colors. So naturally, it's on him, on his helmet, and on the gantry. So as I do this, I'll pay attention. Now, you can see how wet this is. So I want to, rather than do the dark green, I'm going to switch to another color. So that's another thing you want to be careful of is because we are dealing with puddles, basically, puddles of pigment, you want to be careful about butting up against wet color because it will bleed into the next area. I was just looking to see if any of those had bleed, but they don't. That appears to be all of the dark blue. Clean my brush again because I'm going to change colors. So now, because that is dry up there, I think I'll do the darker green first. So I'm doing a combination of two greens. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's good. I don't think I mixed enough of it, which happens quite a lot. So in that case, I want to try to make sure I get this gantry completely covered, because if the shorts and jersey don't quite match, that's not going to matter. And of course, watercolors is a balance of pigment in these cakes and water. So if you want more opaque, more saturate, darker, two ways to get there. One is, of course, more pigment, less water. And two is to, after it dries, lay in another layer of the same color. And so you're building an opacity as you do multiple layers of translucent color. I like the way this looks, but it wasn't what I planned. And that's another thing in all art, particularly with watercolors, is you have to be a bit adaptive, because things can go wrong rather quickly. So I just dabbed off a little bit of water. That's what that little touch over there was. And again, it doesn't look like I made enough color. Naturally. Phone's over there making phone. One of my computers is over there making all kinds of noise. think I might make it. Here's hoping. Yep. So you can see, the greens of the Grantier and the greens of his kit. And of course, spinners will wear a skin suit, although I think he actually has a jersey and shorts on. And it's fun, teams will rush to get shorts that match. And of course, there's a lot was done with, particularly when they don't expect to end up in the jersey. Like when the Irishman, Ben Healy, won yellow, his bike sponsor, Cannondale, painted up a yellow jersey bike for him, or a yellow bike to match the jersey, and then had to get it from, I believe it was in England, so it was like, throw the bike on the channel, and of course he just did the frame, because the mechanics are going to build up the bike to his specs and the stage's specs every day. So they're zooming this frame, and then apparently, according to social media, they picked it up at the train station in a Porsche and then drove pell-mell to the team with the frame, and then the mechanic spent the night getting it all built up so that when he went to the start the next day, he had a yellow bike. 10 hours, maybe a little more than that. But yeah, roughly 10 hours after he won the yellow jersey, he had a yellow bike to ride the next day, which is just nuts when you think about it, how quickly that transpired. So this is getting close to being finished. I just have to lay in the road surface. Enough time to remind you that if you're not already a subscriber, I would truly appreciate it. Thank you to all who have subscribed. Thank you also to those who have been commenting, posting questions. Larry's been quite active in that. But another couple of artists asking, technical questions. What's the paper, what pen, those kind of things. Technique questions, anything you have. And of course, you're more than welcome to comment on the painting, favorably or negatively. I've been exhibiting my work, and of course, if you go to my website, gregleach.com, you can see not only this work, and there are also videos of my other full-scale non-cycling work. So yeah, I've been exhibiting work for a long time, and I'm used to people not liking what I do. And don't have time for the story. Maybe I'll remember to tell it another time, but better to have people react negatively and passionately so than not to react at all. So just remember that when people are giving you a hard time about your work. That means they've looked at it. That means they're paying attention to it. So again, thank you all for watching. I do appreciate it. Just don't like that stark white here, so. And for commenting. And of course, also, all of the paintings of this stage and every stage will be posted at my cycling blog, theartofcycling.blogspot.com. And from those posts, you can also find a direct link to each painting on my website where you can purchase these. I'm running at about 25-30%, which is a little lower than normal, but then NBC isn't airing my time-lapse videos. So it goes. They did it for 7 years. I can't complain. So there's today's painting, continuing his streak. Thank you all for watching. As I was putting these things away, I realized I forgot to say happy birthday to me. The tour and my birthday always coincide frequently on the last day of the tour. So this is the way I usually spend my birthday.